And he did a technique that I don't think I've ever seen or have done before. So let me try it. That's pretty sick. Hey everybody, it's Mike here from The Art of Guitar. I am back with another episode for Fix This Band. And I know I just did one not too long ago, but this particular video showed up and I just couldn't pass it up. It just spoke to me. I think a big reason why is because it looks like four crazy uncles got together and formed a metal band. So I would call their style of music crazy uncle metal, possibly. I don't know if that's going to be like a new genre, or maybe it already exists. I'm not really sure. But these guys look like they're having fun, just playing together, but they also seem like they're kind of at a certain level that I see a lot of beginning bands at. And it's a level that's really hard to pull out of. So I thought with a few tips and tricks, like if I was asked to coach this band, with the tips and tricks that I would give them to practice, I think they could reach the next level. Now, keep in mind, this video is pretty old. It's like 12 years old, but it represents, like I said, where I see a lot of bands at when I watch them. Now, I'm going to try something new today, just kind of as a fun side quest. You're going to hear that it's kind of hard to tell what the singer is singing, so I want to make it a challenge, a personal challenge, to try to decipher the lyrics. And what I'll do is I'll put them at the bottom, so you'll see some text at the bottom. Keep in mind that is not the official lyrics for the song. That's just my best guess. So these four guys are from West Wales, according to the video description, and they're called RavenHeart. And the song is called Hell on Earth, which I think is just perfect for a crazy uncle metal song. Now, before the music even starts, they put four images, one of each band member in the beginning, and they put their name and their instrument. And I just thought that was a funny way to start off a video, but let's check it out. That's the singer. Dukin Barker, I think. I don't know if they meant Duncan. Maybe Dukin's a big name in Wales. I'm not really sure. Rhythm guitar and lead vocals. Now, one thing, I don't know if I would have chosen this particular still image. It just seems, well, never mind. Let's keep going. And here we have the lead guitar player, Sean Barker, and so I guess they're brothers. And one thing that's kind of making me nervous is he's playing through a Fender combo amp, which when you're in a metal band, that can work, but it's a little bit suspect. All right, we have Ance Tormson on bass guitar. He's one of those guys that just looks like a bass player, doesn't he? Like if you looked at all four of these guys, I would just pick them out right away. That is the bass player. And then on drums, we have Lynn Monster Lewis. It's kind of funny how if you just want to make yourself sound more badass, just put Monster inside your name. Now, just like that Fender amp, I'm a little bit worried because I'm looking at his tom setup right now and they look like they're spread apart quite a bit. There's kind of an unwritten conception for drummers that if your toms are spread apart, it's like the more spread out they are, the worse of a drummer you are. I didn't make up that rule, but it just seems like it always seems to prove true. Usually it's whenever you have one tom here and one over here. Now, Lynn Monster Lewis might be different because he has three toms sitting at the top, three rack toms. So we'll see what happens. All right, now let's get to the song. And remember, I like to do this in sections. So I'm going to listen to the intro and possibly the first verse, pause it, commentate, and so on. So here we go.
1, 2, yeah!
Right from the count off that it's just going to be a wild ride. My old drummer used to do that 1, 2, you. And the only thing is you can only do that once per concert because if you do it more than once, it seems kind of lame. Another funny thing about the count off is that the singer counts it off, right? And then the drummer, Monster Lewis, comes in an eighth note too late.
1, 2, yeah!
So it just sort of defeats the purpose. Let's talk about that main riff because I really love this riff. It kind of reminded me of Hash Pipe by Weezer, this riff. Except on the E string and backwards. But if you listen carefully, they're actually going like this, which I think sounds really sweet. Then they end it with two power chords, B flat to C. It seems like Monster Lewis is hitting the hits with the power chords only in select spots. So he misses it in the intro, but during the verse he does it. It kind of seems like it should be the other way around. At least that's what I would recommend. I'm keeping a close eye on the singer because he's just kind of standing there, but he's got little mannerisms that he's doing. You know, I like his headbang that he does during the riff, and he seems to like to clench his fist next to his thigh, which reminded me a little bit of that one meme that I always see. It's apparent that they're just at practice. I'm not sure if they're at a church or wherever they are. That'd be funny if they were in a church. But it seems like they're kind of staring at each other a lot, especially the guitar player. The lead guitar player keeps looking over at the bass player, Ants. And it just seems like a non-confident move. You know, if you're at practice, that makes sense. But obviously they know they're being recorded. So I would recommend, you know, if they take this to the stage, that they don't look in at each other as much. They look out to the crowd a little bit more, towards the camera in this case. It's okay to look at each other, you know, when you're vibing, you're like, yeah. But when it comes to locking eyes and watching what everyone else is doing too much, it could come off as you're not really sure what's going on and you have to follow somebody else. Now, the singer, Dukin, I believe that's right, he is trying to do some moves during the hits, you know, so he slams his elbow. He kind of does like an elbow strike. But the unfortunate part of that is the drummer isn't hitting those, like I said. So it's just kind of a weak motion. If something's hitting with that, it would be a lot cooler. So I really wish the drummer would do a little bit more of the hits. What I did was I recreated the chorus into the main riff, just to show you how it would sound if the kick drums and the crashes were hitting with some of these actual guitar hits. Check it out. Now, the double bass may have been a little bit ambitious for me to put in there, but I honestly think it sounds really cool. It accentuates this riff, but I don't even know if Monster Lewis has a double kick pedal, but wishful thinking, I guess. All right, let's go to verse 2 and see what happens here. I love that bass tone, by the way. The singer keeps doing those really loud yells to really accentuate the end of his lyric lines sometimes, and that's cool, but I'm afraid that he's not backing up from the mic. If you're going to be that loud, you can't really stay where you're at because the sound tech will just go crazy. It's going to blow up the PA system, you know? So when you scream out of nowhere like that, a good rule is to back up a little bit to compensate for that, just to save the PA system and the sound man's sanity. The drummer did a really cool thing this time for the chorus. He went into a downbeat double time, which gives the song some movement. It's like, okay, a lot of the parts blend together. You notice that? He doesn't really do a ton of fills to tell you, hey, here's the next part. Sometimes he does, not always. But when he goes to that double time groove, it really takes the song to the next gear, and I really love that. Let's keep going. I think we have a guitar solo coming up, which is one of my favorite parts. Okay, the moment I saw the solo and what the singer was doing during the solo, I knew I had to cover this video. It just made my day. I forgot to mention that the bass player does a really cool walk down. He goes way up high and does this really sweet walk down. but the drummer really doesn't do any type of fill to signify that you're going into a solo. And the guitar player, Sean, he didn't hit his lead pedal right away either. So it's all sort of just floating. We need a little bit more commitment to the parts. So as soon as he hits his pedal, his brother, the singer, goes like, he motions like, go up in front. But the guitar player's like, no, dude, I'm soloing back here. What are you talking about? And then the singer just goes off on this weird tangent. So first he kind of mocks him like, whatever, dude, okay. And I feel like it's an act, you know what I mean? I don't think he's genuinely like disappointed or anything like that. But all of a sudden, he goes from telling his brother to take the spotlight to taking the spotlight himself by doing these really strange movements. It's almost like 80s jazzercise or something. I'm not really sure what he's doing.
The champions, we are the champions.
Oh, by the way, I think he looks a little bit like Nicolas Cage in Con Air. Do you see that too? Another thing that killed me is when he went into his weird dance, nobody else in the band even flinched. They're probably like, oh, he's just doing Dukin's dance moves again. Now, we shouldn't ignore that solo because even though, you know, it's kind of distracting what Dukin was doing, the guitar player Sean was doing some really cool soloing. And he did a technique that I don't think I've ever seen or have done before. So let me try it. That's pretty sick. All right, let's keep going now. It's going to be the post-solo part. I believe it's back into the main riff, but let's see. I have to stop it there because that's a great example of just chaos happening. A lot of confusion. You know, they're really staring each other down now, especially the singer. He's looking back at his brother like, where are we? If you're playing live, which once again, I know they're not, but when you're playing live, if you're looking back to kind of get a cue from somebody, it's not a great idea because you could tell as soon as his brother started the main riff, then the singer was like, okay, here we go. So instead of looking back and then being like, oh yeah, here we are, it's better to look forward or headbang or something because you're going to be able to hear the change. You don't have to see it necessarily. I still say that bass tone is killer. He's getting some ripping sounds out of it. It's got this growl to it that I really love. I think the guitar tone could be a little bit better. It sounded good for the solo, but I think for a project like this, having something like a Mesa Boogie would probably be a good idea, or an Ingle or something with high gain would be nice. But I don't like to really rip on gear because it's expensive and sometimes it could take a long time to save up and to earn enough to get your perfect setup. Since it's a crazy uncle band, I go with half stacks and tube heads. That's the way I would go. I just can't see these guys playing like fractals or something. It just doesn't seem to fit their vibe, you know? All right, let's take it to the end. Here we go. So before I forget, I'm just going to read their end screen really quick. It says, West Wales band with a strong passion for producing our own original style of metal. We do not believe, typo, heavy metal should be flawless at the expense of its passion and power. I think that's a really good message. But personally, I also think that being flawed in a different way can take away from that passion and power. So if you want the audience to really feel your power, that's one thing to be raw. But to be flawed because you're not tight as a band or because you're not exactly practiced up on your instrument is a whole nother thing. And that's exactly why I love doing these videos, because I think I can help that side of a band. Let's talk about this ending. It sort of feels like it did when the solo ended. Like there's a little bit of this air of confusion, and you could see the drummer back there, Monster Lewis. He's looking around, and that's not a good sign. Like, where are we, guys? Typically, I look to the drummer to be like, here we go. You know, the drummer has to be that anchor a lot of the times. And if he's looking around like, where are we? That's never a good sign. But somehow, I don't know how, they end together. I know it doesn't sound like it because the singer kind of growls over the ending. But if you listen carefully, there's 2 hits and they all hit the 2 hits. So that's pretty miraculous. Now, what tips me off that the ending wasn't exactly the way they planned is because the bass player, Ants, you could kind of hear him before the video cuts off say something like, did we end too soon? And that cuts off. I'm not sure if that's what he said, but that's just my guess. I'm wondering if they were supposed to go one more round or if they were supposed to go back into the main riff one more time. But like I said, either way, they ended correctly, so that's pretty sweet. A lot of bands are kind of at this level where they can get through the song. They actually sound pretty good in certain parts, but the glue that holds the pieces together, it's not quite dry yet. So you still feel this kind of loose feeling throughout the entire thing, like it could just fall off the rails at any time. If I was coaching this band, the first thing I would do is I would sit down with the drummer and I would say, we need to work on the transitions a little bit more. Also, we need to do those hits, you know, the syncopated hits with the riff. We need to tighten that up so that the riffs feel a little bit more cohesive with each other. There were way too many times where the bass player and the guitar player were hitting a chord and there was nothing to support it. You could do that a little bit, but when it goes through the entire song, it just makes it sound weak. I would tell the bass player to just keep doing his thing. He seems to be on the right track. He even tucked in his cable, you know, underneath his strap, which I always harp about. So, you know, it's not like the band moved around a lot, so it's not a huge concern because Sean, the guitar player, did not tuck in his cable. But it's not like he's running around or something, but I would still do it as a precautionary measure just in case. I love that the lead guitar player had a lead pedal. That's great because, you know, it was like a boost pedal, I believe, and suddenly you could hear that he was soloing, but he just hit it a little bit too late. I'd have him work on his confidence with the parts, you know, of what's coming up. And once he's confident in his guitar playing, yeah, I'd have him move around a little bit, but I really have to see them in front of an audience to really understand what they do live. And for the singer, I would tell him either always do those crazy moves or never do them. These sudden outbursts, it's almost like he had a Red Bull before they started recording and all of a sudden it kicked in right there. But that's just too bizarre, you know? I mean, it could be his shtick. I'm not really sure. But it just really took away from the guitar player's solo on that specific part. So maybe save that for the intro or something instead, or the outro. I would give these guys 5 practices with me coaching them to get to that next elusive level. Because as soon as they're all confident of what's coming up next, I think so many things will take care of themselves. Let me know what you thought of the band RavenHeart, if they remind you of your crazy uncles getting in a band together, and I guess we'll see you at the next video. I still say this is one of my favorite riffs right now. It's pretty badass. Anyway, thanks again for watching. We'll catch you later. Bye-bye.